Let's talk about cumulative relative frequency. Cumulative relative frequency is the sum of the previous relative frequencies. To find the cumulative relative frequencies, add all the previous relative frequencies to the relative frequency of the current row. So here we're actually seeing the same exact table we were working with before, the same data values, frequencies, relative frequencies, but now we've also added on a cumulative relative frequency column. Notice in the first row, we simply carried over the relative frequency, which is 0.15. Notice in the second row, we took 0.15, which was the relative frequency from the previous row, and we added it to 0.25, which is the relative frequency of the current row. That equals 0.40. Notice in the third row, we carried over 0.40, so we carried over the cumulative relative frequency from before, and we added on the relative frequency from this row, which was 0.15. That's how we came up with 0.55, and we continued in that manner till the very bottom. A way you can double check yourself is by verifying that your last cumulative relative frequency is 1. The last entry of the cumulative relative frequency column should equal 1 or really close to 1, indicating that 100% of the data has been added. You might be thinking to yourself, this seems like a lot of extra work. What is the point of calculating the cumulative relative frequency? Well, the important thing about this column is it gives us information about groups of data values. For example, let's look at the two questions at the bottom. The first question asks, what percentage of students said they work 4 hours or less per day? So if I'm talking about 4 hours or less, I know that includes 4 hours, 3 hours, or 2 hours. Once I have this data table constructed, I don't have to calculate that because it's already available to me. I just look at the row associated with 4 hours per day. And I look at the cumulative relative frequency located within that row, which is 0.55. Remember, 0.55 was calculated by adding on the relative frequency for 4 hours per day, 3 hours per day, and 2 hours per day. So that 0.55 represents 55%. That 55% represents the students who said 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours. So 55% of students said they work 4 hours or less per day. The second question asks, what percentage of students said they work less than 6 hours per day? If I'm focusing on less than 6, I know that includes 5, 4, 3, 2. So I look at the cumulative relative frequency associated with the data value of 5 because I know that that amount includes 5, 4, 3, and 2. In the table, I see that's 0.85, meaning 85%, meaning 85% of students said they work less than 6 hours per day.